Great. Welcome, everybody. My name is Armagan Ahmed. I am so thrilled and humbled to be speaking with Dean Hasnain, Dr. Khalid Hasnain, in his first address that he's making to the faculty and to the alumni for DeGroote School of Business. I want to start by introducing myself first. I'm the president and managing partner of KPMG. I come from the tech industry, spent many years working at companies like Dell, HP, mostly out of the US, Europe, and Asian countries, and been back in Canada for about the last 3 years. Got a chance to meet with Khalid for lunch as he was coming on back in, I think it was around August timeframe, Khalid, if I'm right, and he sort of said, hey, this conversation we were having about his background, you all know when you're trying to meet people after these COVID restrictions in person, you want to sort of get to know people. So I was asking Khalid about his story, his deep purpose, and all the way from Egypt to Colombia to France, and we started sharing a meal, and he said, hey, I'm planning to have one of these town halls, and it would be great for us to just have this kind of conversation that him and I had over lunch, and I thought that would be an incredible opportunity for me to do that, and here I am. So that's a little bit about me and where the genesis of this conversation came through. So just some housekeeping. One is if we can just have everyone keep their cameras off to ensure that there is smooth video delivery from our conversation that Khalid and I are having. And we are recording this conversation, and we will post it online for those who were unable to attend today. And there will also be time for Q&A with the audience. So be it the faculty or the alumni of DeGroote School of Business, please save your questions until then when I sort of, open it up to Q&A, and please do share them in chat. So high level, this is, as I said, a deep honor for me to host this conversation with Dr. Khalid Hasnain. He's a professor, researcher, and now the new dean of the DeGroote School of Business. And today our conversation is going to focus on two big focus areas that he has. One, I asked Khalid, it would be great for everyone to get to know you a little bit. So start with a personal story about what, where Khalid and his family came from. And then we will then go into a few themes that we will discuss around his key focus areas for DeGroote in the coming years, including the interdisciplinarity as well as the EDI and inclusive excellence. So with that, Khalid, I want to make sure that you are able to hear me okay, and you're ready to do this.
Great, and I can hear you, and thank you so much, Armagan, for the introduction and for facilitating this conversation with our alumni. I'm delighted to be talking to the alumni today and getting to know them better.
Wonderful. Well, listen, let's start with the personal side first, Khalid, if that's okay, because that's sort of how we did our lunch. So when we first met, you told me some stories about your family, your upbringing in Egypt, your travel experiences throughout Colombia and France. And then you told me a lot about, you and your connection to McMaster. Do you mind sharing some of these with the audience today?
For sure, because this would highlight my deep connection to McMaster. So I was born in Cairo, Egypt, where I left Cairo after a few years to join my father and the rest of my family as he did his PhD in math in India. I was educated my early years in India, and we returned to Cairo for a few years. My mother is also a teacher, and my father is a math prof. And we moved to Kuwait later, where my dad pursued an academic career at Kuwait University, and I got educated in Kuwait up to my undergrad in electrical engineering. My first time to visit Hamilton and McMaster was in 1977, as my father was a visiting professor to the math department. And I remember those years with a lot of endearment, where I remember playing soccer in the fields in front of Burke Science Building and other fields around McMaster, and learning like in 1980, I visited again and got my first driving license here. So I was driving around Hamilton. It was a very exciting time for me. Since those early days, I completed my undergrad degree in electrical engineering in Kuwait. I looked for a place to do my graduate degree and came to UFT to pursue a master's in biomedical engineering, which after completing, I worked back at Kuwait University for a couple of years before coming to finish my PhD at University of Waterloo. Worked in industry with NCR Payment Solutions for about 6 years. In the middle of that stint, I felt as an engineer that I'm severely lacking in business education. So I pursued a part-time MBA at Laurier. At the end of that degree, I wanted to come back to academia, but I wanted to be on the business side. So the information systems area at the group at the time was a perfect home for me because it would capture both my backgrounds in business and education and engineering. So I joined the group in 2000 as an associate professor of information systems. Since then, I've been teaching in the MBA and the executive MBA program. And my research has focused on HCI, decision support systems. So HCI is human-computer interaction, of course, and digital transformation more recently. And the community of scholars I found here and the facilities, McMaster Stress and the Groot Stress on intensity of research has really helped me thrive in this environment. During the past 21 years, I have served in increasingly senior roles as area chair and research center director, and most recently as associate dean grad studies and research for the group. And then this opportunity came about, and I'm really glad to be the dean of the Groot School of Business. It's a great honor, and I feel a great responsibility. It's a long time since I was here as a 16-year-old teenager on Max campus, and I'm very happy to continue my career here.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing your background with everybody. And I knew, knowing you, and you're a researcher, a professor, so you went through your CV and your resume and your story very well. So if you don't mind, I'm going to change it up just a little bit and get to know you as your kids do as dad, or how you are as a husband, or how you are as a brother. So maybe it'll be good to just get to if I can maybe just ask, we'll take 60 seconds to quickly ask some questions just so that people can see how you're wired. Right. Is that okay, Khalid?
For sure. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. There's nothing inappropriate. So I'm already letting you know in advance, but whatever comes to you first, you can say. So, we meet a lot of people these days and everyone sort of asks, hey, what books are you reading? Just so that people can get to know everyone. So what books are you reading now, or some of your most favorite books?
So it's funny that you should ask this, because as you see behind me, I have no books on my shelf here. This is a new office I'm moving into, and I have not completed the move yet. But more seriously, a book that I have read before and I keep coming to, I'm reading it these days, is a book by the title Why Nations Fail. It's by Darren Acemoglu and James Robinson. And this book, which I happen to have with me today, is not an ad for the book, but just to show it. It's a very interesting book, because I often wondered why some nations and regions prosper while others don't. And the book shows clearly, with compelling evidence from around the globe, that this is due to extractive institutions that exist in those places. And they exist for a variety of reasons. In many cases, one of the reasons that they were imposed by and furthered by colonial expansion. And this is still happening today. So I really feel that as developed societies, we have responsibilities to understand this and feel some responsibility for the inequities that exist in our world today, and try to do something about it, because only then we will have more stability around the world. And we just need to try to share some of the wealth we have to achieve more equity around the globe, and of course within our societies as well.
We're actually going to double click on social trust and how income inequalities lead to the social trust demise that we're seeing in the US, for example, or many other countries. Interesting, very interesting conversations. We'll go into that. Second question. Everyone's watching Netflix or Prime or Disney Plus these days. So which show are you binge watching these days?
Okay, so I recently binge watched The Money Heist. It's a Spanish show. And I enjoyed it a lot because of the ingenuity, I think, involved in the detailed planning they took for the different heists. And perhaps it's because I'm an engineer at heart, like deep down, I'm an engineer. So I really enjoyed all the technology involved and how they orchestrated it. I also enjoy watching something international from time to time. And in this case, part of my enjoyment with this show is listening to the Spanish language, which I just like hearing. This is what something I watched recently.
And is Money Heist the one? Because there's been two. There was Lupin, there was Money Heist, and then where they had to balance the weighing scale with water. There's been so many of these.
Yeah, The Money Heist is the Spanish one. Lupin, I also watched that.
Oh, did you?
This is the French show.
That's the French dub one, yeah. Right. And then, so third question: if you had an extra hour of free time a day, and I know it's hard these days, but how would you spend that free time if you just had that 1 hour free?
Well, if I have an hour free, I think I would either use it to exercise, to listen to the advice of my son, who's a physiotherapist, or I would use it to catch up on so many things I'm behind on. I would rather do the first than the second, but that's the reality. There's so many things to do.
Yeah, I'm sure you're going to take that 1 hour and stock that bookshelf with everything you need to put in there.
Right.
That's awesome. Okay, final question, then we'll get into the serious stuff. So what do you do for fun? So outside of being the new dean of the DeGroote School of Business, what do you do for fun?
So I really enjoy listening to music, and it's not one type of music. It's like Arabic, English, French, Spanish, and I really like the older songs and the sad songs, the romantic songs. I also enjoy reading, whether it's novels or books like the one I just mentioned. Amazing. And watching TV. And again, I watch English, Arabic, and other international shows. One of the things I enjoy, but I haven't had a chance to do, but I had more chance to do under COVID, is cooking. And I really enjoy putting dishes together. And you see here some examples. So on the left, you see an okra with beef, and on the middle you see some stir fry, vegetarian stir fry with shrimps. And on the right-hand side, you see a chickpea with Thai chickpea dish. So I enjoy the experience of putting this together.
I love that. Thanks for sharing the personal side. We always say that the human aspect is more important. The EQ is more important than the IQ, more and more, right? And I think we're all sure, very high IQ on your part, but the EQ, the emotional quotient, is an important one, Khalid, for us to get to know you.
And I agree. It's really good to explore the personal side of people. Yeah.
So let's get into maybe some of the themes that you and I were talking about as we were getting ready for this. You started your new role as dean in July timeframe, right?
Yeah.
That was under COVID restrictions. But when we met, I remember for our outdoor lunch, you kept talking about how excited you were to have the life back at the campus and how to have the faculty back at the campus and how you were eager to get everyone back in person. Can you, a lot of this morning I was in some meetings and people are reflecting, renewing, and reimagining the future. So when you reflect, what were the first few months like, when you took over as dean? So if you reflect on that. And then two, if you have to renew, how do we all renew expectations going forward, similar to coming back to campus or being in person? And then if you had to reimagine, which is how are you reimagining the future, what the future is going to look like?
Right. So these are a lot of questions, so I might ask you to repeat some of them.
Go for it.
So, right. So I just want to reflect on what has been happening in the past few months. And one of the main things that we've been working very hard to reclaim our vibrant campus community. So we've missed that so much. And I know our students have missed it, but so did our staff and faculty. So we are trying to introduce more in-person classes this fall, more in-person services, but doing all of this with making sure that we have all the health regulations observed so that the safety of the community is top of mind. So far our students have been thrilled to be back. You can see here some photos of the students on main campus. These are our commerce students. And you see the Commerce Society celebrating and helping with the comeback. And we have similar experiences on the RJC with the campus with our MBA students. You can see them here in one of their early classes, the first day of classes on campus. Talking to the students, they were so happy and grateful to be back together and interacting with their faculty members and staff. So it is wonderful to be back. And we are going to continue to monitor what's going on and try to have a winter term that is fully on campus. The McMaster and DeGroote are working very hard to make this happen. And we are hoping that, notwithstanding any surprises with the health side, that we will have this in the winter.
And then if you had to renew, that was the second part, which is, how do we renew expectations?
So I'm not sure I understand the expectations, but the expectations are that we have gotten used to a mode of interacting through Zoom and so on. And in my mind, we have renewed expectations to be more interacting in person as opposed to interacting via Zoom, because I don't think it's the same. You can never run into someone in Zoom, and the experience, which I call the 3D experience, if you will, as opposed to the 2D experience, is entirely different. And you relate at a deeper level when you see people, and you don't have Zoom freezes, and it's just life is so much better in person, I think. And when you hear this coming from a researcher who does research on digital transformation, I think it means a lot, because I'm the digital transformation guy, and I'm saying that personal contact is better.
And that, I guess, leads to, when we talk about how you reflected and what you're renewing, and then reimagining. So talking about digital transformation, you have to think about the future of, what the future is going to be. So are you starting to form a strategy around reimagining?
Right. So I think having said what I just mentioned about the importance of being in person, that doesn't mean that we are going to abandon what we learned in terms of efficiencies and more flexible ways of working and educating during the pandemic. This has to be done in a meaningful way, where we look at the entire program and how different elements that are online experiences could be incorporated for our students where this makes sense to achieve the objectives of the individual courses and the program as a whole. It's also important to recognize that staff and faculty have enjoyed the flexibility of working from home at times, and we need also to reflect that in our future plans, while achieving the objectives of McMaster being an in-person university primarily. And I think that's where we add the most value.
So maybe that takes us into our first theme around interdisciplinary and ecosystems. And our economy, as you and I were talking about, is rapidly transforming. The innovation economy is now 12% of the Canadian GDP. It's growing 3x to 6x faster than the parts of the traditional economy as part of the GDP. thriving in this environment is going to require organizations to be part of an ecosystem and to continually adapt to their environment. What I'm trying to get at is upskilling or reskilling. And you've mentioned that interdisciplinary approach to research and education is something that is important to you. So let's talk about why you're so passionate about interdisciplinary approaches.
So first, I am convinced that today's challenges are so complex and multidimensional that only a multidisciplinary approach would help us tackle them. So take the COVID pandemic. And I think there was a lost opportunity there because we focused entirely or predominantly on the health aspect of it without looking at the societal impacts and the outcomes of long lockdowns and so on. So when looking at things from one perspective, I feel there is always a lost opportunity. My passion for interdisciplinarity stems from my interdisciplinary education. So as I mentioned, I was trained in engineering, biomedical, and business or management. And that allows me to bring different aspects to the research problems I try to tackle with my colleagues and teams. So at the group, we are focusing on the interdisciplinarity, not only on research, but in what we teach our students. So we're trying to teach them to see different sides of a problem, think about all types of solutions, and work with different kinds of people. That's part of the diversity theme we might touch on later today.
Yeah.
So if we look at our Integrated Business Humanities program, which was launched in 2017 and was covered by the Atlantic magazine, is part of a new trend of recognizing the importance of combining business with other disciplines. It is something that we allowed us to integrate these business skills with like education in English, philosophy, and history from the humanities faculty. And it's a very successful program. This is not new to us because we have collaborated with the Faculty of Engineering on their flagship engineering management program for many, many years. And it's a program that has been thriving, and employers have loved the graduates from that program. Mm. We take the same approach in research. So McMaster really prides itself on being research intensive and specifically on interdisciplinary research. So the collaborations that are happening across faculties in McMaster is really, really great because it allows us to do things that others may not be able to do. Our strategic plan for the past 5-6 years has focused on distinguishing ourselves at the group in two main areas: healthcare management and digital transformation / innovation. And one of the aspects there, or one of the ways we implemented this, is the Executive MBA in Digital Transformation that started in 2016. And another aspect is the launching of the McMaster Digital Transformation Research Center in 2017, which I served as a director for a few years. So as you're looking here, these are some of the things we have at the McMaster Digital Transformation Research Center. This is a unique facility in Ontario, and there are only 2 such facilities in Canada. And what we are able to do here is try to understand the user experience, whether in terms of interacting with technology or when making decisions using neuroscience. So what you're seeing here is a subject or a participant who has a belt around their chest. We're measuring their breathing rate and heart rate, and we are they have a cap on their head to get the brain waves, and their facial expressions are being captured through a camera. As you see, a mesh model of the face is being constructed, so we can predict if the person is happy, sad, angry. And on the right-hand side, you see me holding a HoloLens, where we're studying how people use augmented reality and how they react to these settings. Behind me there, everything that the subject on the left is doing, we can observe on that screen on the right. The vision there is that we can understand the user experience at a much deeper level if we track their eye movements, their brain waves, and so on. And we work closely with industry partners who come to us to address some of the problems they're facing, and we design research studies with them to address those objectives. And then we work closely throughout the projects to make sure that we are aligned with what they're trying to achieve. So this is like a collaboration between scientists from not only business, but also neuroscience. The final thing you're seeing on the left, on the right-hand side here, is that we're taking this user experience lab on the road. So our latest CFI funding project, that's the Canada Foundation for Innovation project, will see us being able to take this RV and transform it into a user experience lab with the same types of equipment I just mentioned, and take it on the road to populations that can't come to us, say older adults in retirement homes, or people who have disabilities, or to go and conduct in situ experiments in organizations' own settings. So this interdisciplinary approach is very powerful, and we want to continue to do this in the future.
So Khalid, thank you for sharing that. And I know in our conversation, you were sort of talking about how there's I think I was telling you that so much, I'm on the board of Queen's University's and University of Waterloo's engineering program and the Smith School of Business there. And the conversations a lot of times is that we have a lot of great research, that research doesn't get commercialized. And what I like about this conversation, which you just highlighted about interdisciplinary approaches, is healthcare, which has been, life sciences and healthcare has been McMaster's claim to fame, but then also with digital transformation, having that executive MBA, as well as, the innovation areas that you're bringing together, the examples you just provided are great, but in our great country, we continue to subsidize research, education, but what we're finding is many of these IP is that the IP ends up leaving the country, or or getting not just the intellectual property as a patent, but also we're finding that these researchers get hired by the US or big conglomerates, and then third is that you're seeing talent that we are subsidizing who ends up leaving the country, right? So that becomes a huge talent shortage for us. Maybe talk a little bit about, how you're thinking that taking an approach of interdisciplinary would also help with that.
Right. So I'm delighted to say that McMaster as a whole is keenly interested in commercializing more of the outcomes to benefit not only McMaster, but also society as a whole. So at the McMaster Innovation Park, we have created an ecosystem that will help McMaster researchers and other startup organizations commercialize and thrive with the technologies being developed in Hamilton. So the point is, we have great developments and creations, innovations that happen at McMaster in the various faculties. But when you add the interdisciplinarity, so you add some business researchers, business students to work with more like technical side students, like engineering and health sciences and science, you get great outcomes. An example of this is an initiative that our previous Dean, Len Waverman, launched together with the health sciences faculty to deploy what we call the clinic. And we have, the clinic is a facility where MBA students are taking a course to work on innovations developed by health sciences that have been sitting on the shelf for years, and trying to take some of these and put them into commercialization. But McMaster as a whole is investing in a commercialization fund, and a commercialization board of senior administrators at Mac is in place, and we will be taking this much more seriously in years to come. So, and when I talk about innovations, it doesn't have to only come from, say, I said engineering or science or health science. There are a lot of innovations that could arise in business, in humanities, and social sciences as well. So this is an important aspect that we should see that we can all contribute to, because innovation doesn't have to be technology, but also could be business process. And that's only actually where you deploy technologies through an effective business process.
Totally agree, and this is what we were referring to earlier as EQ, emotional quotient, and your decency quotient, because or even your adaptability AQ quotient, right? Because just having the STEM fields is interesting, but bringing the creative arts and these other interdisciplinary programs you talked about is important. So let's maybe move to our second theme around future skills. So I know the World Economic Forum is estimating that 47% of all work tasks will be done by automation tools by 2025. 2025 is like tomorrow. I think it's coming pretty quickly. We're starting 2022 in a few months. And that's up from 33% today. So today in 2020 or 2021 is 33%. It's going to get to 47% by 2025. And advances in AI, are creating new jobs and opportunities for new graduates. However, new graduates will likely be required to upskill and reskill several times throughout their career to keep up with the future work demands. So at the same time, we're seeing with automation taking over a routine, repetitive aspects of jobs, the graduates will need deep skills in creativity and problem solving, which we just referred to as EQ, emotional quotient, adaptability quotient, right? How are you preparing, as you're thinking, as you're coming in as a new dean for DeGroote, how are you preparing students for this future where they'll have to collaborate with machines, but they'll also have to add which our human superpowers are, right?
Right. Well, thank you for this very important question. So I think that at DSP, we don't just teach knowledge, but we also develop skills with our students. And we do this through the experiential components of the courses we teach and through a lot of co-curricular activities that are carefully planned to complement the student experience at DeGroote. So in an age of AI and machine learning, what I call human differentiating skills are key to our students' success in their careers. And these human differentiating skills are things like you mentioned, like critical thinking, collaboration, cultural sensitivity, ability to leverage diversity, creativity. And these skills will drive the success of the next generation of business leaders, I feel. So we also feel like in an age when the lifetime of knowledge is becoming so short, training our students to become lifelong learners is very critical. So I can give you a couple of examples of things we're doing. So our Rethink Business Education initiative, led by our Associate Dean Academic, Dr. Sue McCracken, is embedding these very skills in our curriculum for all undergraduate students at DeGroote. We've just launched a series of what we call GROW courses, one mandatory course in each year of the BCom program that immerse our students in experiential education to support their learning and acquisition of these skills. They include like creative thinking, complex problem solving, resiliency, collaboration across diverse teams, and how to fail safe, because that's an essential part of learning, is learning from your failures. This fall, very exciting, we are breaking ground on our new McLean Center for Collaborative Discovery. And this building that you see here in the image is going to be close, like right by our existing DeGroote School of Business building. And it's a beautiful structure, 10-story, and we'll have a place for DSP students to learn and collaborate with students from across all disciplines on campus. So not only business students, but from across all faculties. This building will feature collaboration spaces, large lecture halls, 2 active learning classrooms, like some entrepreneurial studio for innovation, design labs, and you know about the recently launched Ignition Lab with the support of KPMG, of course. And there will be other labs in AI, in data science, in finance, in this sales and marketing. And all of these things will allow our students to develop skills in close collaboration together and working with our business partners. And you can see here the various spaces we have at the different levels for our students and community. And we have added a 10th floor to house our graduate students, PhD students, as well as space for our professors and visiting scholars, which will round off the experience of our BCom students to allow them to interact with this group of our community. And we're looking forward to move into this building in 2023.
Wow. Looks like a gorgeous building. Before this whole automation numbers that I shared in 2024, 2025 come through, you already have a great solution that's coming in. So this is probably a great pivot, Khalid, to then having our third theme discussed, which is purpose. And the events of the past year with COVID and having people working from home and working remotely, and changing their lifestyles have caused people to reflect on their purpose and align their purpose to their work. We always used to talk about work-life balance or work-life harmony, but with the pandemic, people have had more time to think about their lives and what's important to them when they're not stuck on the 401 driving or QEW driving to some major urban centers. They've had a time to take their pet for a walk, or go for walks with their family, or go biking or running or exercise, or there are people who never had opportunities to have relationships because they were so focused and fixated on work. And people are looking for purpose and deep satisfaction in their work. And there were some stats I was reading preparing for this, that 2/3 of the US-based employees said that COVID has caused them to reflect on their purpose in life. And as a result, the Harvard Business School just came up with this really good paper that's titled "The Great Resignation," where we are that they're definitely seeing a huge increase, where almost 70+% of people interviewed are looking for another job. And the reason, when you ask them, they said, well, I'm not just aligned to my purpose. I think this job is not aligned to my mission. So we know that younger generations are more likely to align to their purpose, to choose their employer. And when I say younger generation, I mean, you had the baby boomers, then the Gen Xers like us, and then you have the millennials that are now under the age of 36, and then you have the Gen Zers who are at McMaster, right? So orientation, particularly among women, is becoming even more important. So we know that mission orientations is more critical than ever to employees, and DeGroote's mission statement is education with purpose. So tell us a bit more about that education with purpose and your strategy there.
Oh, absolutely. So let me start by saying that it's really important, especially in coming out of the pandemic, to stress more work-life balance. So that's really an important thing, and I think all employers, including McMaster and DeGroote, should take that into account. And we discussed more flexible work arrangements and so on. But when we say that we educate with purpose, we mean that we are shaping the next generation of business leaders in a way that will make positive impact on our communities. And we take this into account in our research endeavors as well. So our graduates and our research is going to transform business and society for the better. And each one of us could take that mission statement and translate it, try to apply it in what they do. So that mission is always in front of us, that we have a purpose to transform business and society to the better. And I think that both our business community and society has a lot in terms of improvement. So there's a lot of room for us to help there. I gave you an example from our IBH program, and our director of the program, Dr. Imad Mohammed, who likes to say that our students aren't just aiming to work for Walmart leadership team, for example, they're going to change it from the inside out. So this is what we train our students to do: examine the status quo, see what needs improvement, and just do it. Over the past 18 months alone, our researchers, in the variety of projects they have tackled in relation to the pandemic, they worked with different industries and the communities, and they worked on things like non-for-profit resilience, virtual services in healthcare, coming up with data-driven solutions for hospitals, looking at worker well-being under the pandemic as they worked from home, and post-pandemic classrooms and what they might look like. They looked at how AI can protect air passengers and how entrepreneurs can bounce back from COVID. So you can see the multitude of research here and how rich it is, reflecting the wide range of research we conduct at the group, and also the interdisciplinarity, because a lot of this research was conducted with researchers from different faculties at the group, and also nationally and internationally. So that's what I mean when we talk about education with purpose, and we'll continue to look at this in new areas like social entrepreneurship, and for instance, also losing my train of thought here, but sustainability and environmental responsibility.
Yeah, because I think purpose is connected to sustainability and your diversity, the inclusion aspects, and how you are making sure that you are living your true purpose, and the work that you deliver is connected to it, right, Khalid? And I think that leads us to our fourth theme, which is EDI, equity, diversity, inclusion, and inclusive excellence is important. And I know continuing along that theme of mission orientation, it's important for employees, and I imagine students as well, to see their employer addressing EDI in an authentic and meaningful way. Things have changed significantly over the past year and a half, as well as since the murder of George Floyd and the Asian hate we have seen, the Islamophobia events we have seen in London, Ontario, for example, and what's been happening in Alberta and other places. And the continued, and you and I touched on that in the beginning, where the continued income inequality is leading to a disarray of social trust. Even what happened in the insurrection in January 6th in the United States Capitol Hill, a lot of that leads to this, income inequality, and not thinking of EDI, not thinking of, your responsibility of ESG, right? Your environmental, social, and governance aspects. So many organizations have taken meaningful steps to look at what they can do to improve equity, diversity, inclusion, and even ESG initiatives. What has DeGroote's been doing around this?
So this is an area that is really important to me, and I really do believe that organizations are stronger when they prioritize this inclusivity and EDI objectives. I always tell my students that more voices or more perspectives through greater diversity and experiences can make us better at everything we do. And when I talk about diversity, especially within business programs, it's not only diversity of like race, language, or a place of origin, but also it's diversity in education and lived experiences and work experiences. McMaster as a whole has developed a comprehensive EDI strategy over the past few years that they called inclusive excellence. And that is like we achieve overall excellence through inclusivity and incorporating more diversity. And DSP is playing an important role in this like evolving strategy of McMaster and implementing that strategy. So just to give you a few examples, over the past year, we have launched the Indigenous Leaders Scholarship, 5 scholarships fully covering the expenses of MBA students from the Indigenous community. We embarked on targeted hiring of Black faculty members as part of the McMaster initiative to hire 12 Black faculty members as like across McMaster, as this was like a gap identified in our diversity. We partnered with Electro Utilities to launch a scholarship in our Directors College Board Governance Training to like support racialized minorities to attend this important training so that we can have more diversity in our boards across Canada. We have begun planning for a new EDI advisory council and consulting with student leaders at both the undergraduate and graduate levels to understand like what their concerns are and what role can they play in our moving forward on various EDI initiatives. Our Associate Dean, Graduate Studies and Research, Dr. Gillian Mulville, is leading a new project aimed at incorporating more Indigenous teaching and history into our programs. And this is just the beginning because we plan to develop also content that's relevant to other equity deserving groups in our programs, because it's not important to just, it is important to bring people from all groups to our programs, but it is equally important that when they arrive, they see themselves reflected in the content so that their experience in the program is rewarding for them and other people in the program can learn from their experiences and the diversity that we are trying to create in our programs. So for the group, this is just a beginning, and we have a lot of work to do in this area, and we plan to do it in consultation with our internal and external communities.
Amazing. And I'm so glad, Khalid, that diversity, inclusion, EDI, ESG, sustainability, I think all of these are connected to purpose, and more organizations are looking for executives and senior managers who are coming out of these MBA programs and business programs to have those basic disciplines that may not have been taught in the previous generation, because I was trained by baby boomers, and that was the EDI, sustainability, climate change was never something that I was ever trained. But I think if I was to get retrained or upskilled, it's continuous learning. But it's important that folks who are coming out of these business schools going forward will have that ability. So maybe, I know we have 10 minutes left, and I would encourage people to start posting some of their questions online so that we can ask Dean Hasnain these questions. And until you put in some questions, I'm going to ask my final question, which is around strategic planning. So I remember of us having that discussion, which is really about how you're thinking about the future and your planning for the next strategic plan, Khalid. And that's an important aspect to understand for everybody. And then we'll get to Q&A.
Right. So our current strategic plan has just expired, and we will be working with that plan until July of next year. However, we really feel that the strategic plan belongs to our community. And I mean the broader community, both internal and external stakeholders, including our alumni, of course. So its development will begin and end with them. So we will begin this exercise by undertaking an environmental scan to better understand the current situation for business schools and education in general. And we will seek input from our different stakeholders in the process. So what I envision right now is that we will continue to build on our strengths in digital transformation and healthcare management, and possibly add some new focus areas reflecting our growing strengths in areas like leadership and entrepreneurship. However, this is, again, will be led by internal and external stakeholders. We want to continue furthering our reputations and research intensity, and we will work hard to achieve these objectives. In order to get there, though, we need to first stabilize the faculty by ensuring we have the right complement of faculty members. We're severely short right now, and we want to increase our faculty-student ratio and to be able to achieve our aspirations to grow our current programs and offer new innovative ones. So this is something that we will immediately embark on to hire a lot of faculty members to address that shortage. So I hope that answered your question, Armand. You're muted.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, there was never a meeting where somebody doesn't have to remind me that I'm muted. I almost made it 60 minutes without somebody saying that, Khalid. So that was my goal. But I was typing away. I didn't want others to hear my typing. Okay, so there are some good questions that are coming in. So why don't we start taking some questions from the audience? Are you good with that, Khalid?
For sure.
Okay, fantastic. So first question is, what are the best ways for alumni to tap into the MBA talent pool and advertise opportunities, full-time and co-op opportunities?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we have a great team connecting alumni with MBA talent, as well as our undergrad talent. And you can see here is a team, and I encourage you to reach out to Melanie Window to put that talent work into your organization. We would love to do that. So members of our team are here to support you in this regard. So please feel free to contact Melanie.
Okay, that's great. Let's get to the second question. And thank you to your team, by the way, in the background, who are able to very quickly come up with the answers and then actually have pictures there of everybody. So that's just such a great team that Aaron Matthews and others are in the background. Second question, Khalid, is there an appetite to expand into specializations such as analytics, sustainable energy, etc.?
Yes, absolutely. But we just, like as I mentioned, we have to acquire the faculty complement to be able to offer these courses through our own faculty. I think that's really important. The faculty has undergone a period of a lot of expansion with new programs, and we need to have the faculty complement to deliver any new programs. Having said that, and recognizing the importance of these areas, we have incorporated a lot of these elements in our current programs. And in addition, in last summer, for example, we offered the data science program targeted at our graduate students, MBA students, and staff and faculty. And it was very popular and very successful. We worked with like 2 leading organizations in this regard to allow the members who took that training to get certifications. And we have done what I mentioned, which integrated these elements to our various programs. As we move into the future, I envision that we will start offering specializations in these areas. In our MBA program, we offer a specialization in business analytics, for example, at the current time.
Great. It seems like you're already starting to, add more and more into the curriculum, which is great. Here's another question that came up. What new alumni services will be offered? For example, will you extend career services for existing graduates from 6 months post-graduation to lifetime?
Well, that's a question actually that's very interesting, because we have been discussing this, and I think that as part of our strategic planning exercise, I would like to hear from the alumni about what is most important to them. So in the months ahead, expect that we will reach out to you, the alumni, that is, for your feedback, and then we will work with this feedback that we receive. I will consult with my colleagues here, staff and faculty, so that we know what exactly is the right mix to offer to address the needs of our alumni in today's business environment. So that is going to be something that we look closely at in the next few months. Great.
And then there's another question that I see here. I can't see who it's from. Questions from Alex. And if Alex would like to ask the question, Alex, there you are. So Alex, why don't you turn your video on and ask the question?
Yeah, hi, Dr. Hassanein. I'm very happy. First off, congratulations being named Dean. It's a great choice. And one of the best classes I ever had was actually first year MBA, the information systems class, where we had a case study to select a new ERP for Saskatchewan parks and how they were booking park sites. So
I remember that case. Yes.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, though, that's kind of where my career veered. So I'm running IT now for Hockey Canada, and I think the one thing that we've seen, especially in this pandemic, there are core IT skills that absolutely need to be table stakes. And no matter what age demographic or employment background you're from, this really isn't stopping for anyone. Virtual work is going to be a lot more embedded in our day-to-day. It's already pretty ubiquitous. The ability to understand how to set up those meetings, how to use those tools. Do we feel like that's adequately covered in the current kind of core curriculum courses, both at the undergrad and MBA level, like through business data and the info systems courses, or is there a need to enhance that offering a little bit more to prep our folks before they go into the workplace?
Great question. And like for years, I have been mentioning to students that this connection between the technology and the business is a very powerful mix that will equip you for a great career, because you can't avoid technology in today's day and age. So you better understand it and know how to leverage it. And it's just how to leverage it is the critical element here that I feel that a business school can offer, as opposed to, say, an engineering school. They can talk there about the technology, but not necessarily how to best leverage it. So a lot of elements related to analytics and also data science in our programs. And I see that in the future, we will continue to do so, and there will be emphasis on artificial intelligence and machine learning. So, if you were to look at the content today, and I'm not sure when exactly you graduated, that would be a few years ago, judging by the case you mentioned, that you will be pleased of like how much more that students are enrolling into our technology-based programs, completely different from, say, 6-7 years ago. We have introduced a business technology management diploma in that our undergrads are seeking now. So there is more interest in this and more emphasis on it. I hope this answers the question, Alex.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And we'd love to have some DeGroote co-ops in Calgary here at Hockey Canada. So let us know.
Yeah,
that's great.
Excellent.
Well, thank you for that question, Alex. I appreciate it. I think we're getting some good messages of congratulations as well, which is great to see. Khalid, I know we're right at 1 o'clock. We want to be respectful of 60 minutes that we asked everybody that we would be. And I think we covered a lot of ground. I just want to say thank you to everyone who took the time to attend, the faculty, the alumni. Appreciate everybody joining us and asking thoughtful questions. And if there are any unanswered questions, Dr. Hasnain and his team, Aaron Matthews and others, will be addressing them in a question sheet distributed afterwards. Thank you again for giving me the opportunity, Khalid, to just have this small conversation with you. You have such a huge task ahead of you and a strategic vision, and it was an honor for me to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Armagan. I actually enjoyed this very much, and also enjoyed being with our alumni and attendees today. I would like to continue to get to know them better, and always happy to hear from you suggestions or questions, or to just have you involved with our activities. We will all love to hear from you. So thank you all.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.